Hi, I'm Connie at APQS Texas here in Louisville, inside of quilt country. So we're going to work on QuiltPath today, and I'm going to show you the simplest way that this simple-minded person can use this. So the first thing you're going to do is get your tablet turned on, and everybody's tablet turns on a different place. So we want to go to the APQS QuiltPath logo, and I'm going to double tap it maybe. There it goes. All right, it says, make sure that the sewing machine needle is up and move the carriage to the center of the sewing area. It doesn't have to be in the exact center of the table. It just needs to be someplace where it can move. So we're gonna say okay. And you can see it's moving in a diagonal movement. If it doesn't move in a diagonal movement, something is not hooked up correctly, or this little button right here got turned from green to red. Please just leave this on all the time. It'll do you well. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go to pantographs, and we're going to set up our safe area. Before I do that, I'm going to finish attaching my quilt top to my quilt back. We've already sewn down one side, but I'm going to start right here and sew down the other side real quick. And I'm going to set my channel lock. So if you have a Millie, you're going to set it up front. If you have a Lenny, a Lucy or a Lenny, either one, you're going to lock it from the back. So I'm going to turn this on. And, oh, there, my change of thread just went through. I'm just going to move it all the way over. And if you'll notice, I'm just pushing with one finger. One finger, there it goes. And I'm adjusting my quilt top to my popping foot. Okay. Once I'm at the end there, I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread because I've got a lot of moving I need to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my quilt ready to work. Okay, so I'm just going to allow it to advance forward. I'm going to release my tension brake. I'm stepping on my blue pedal, and I'm letting it go forward. And there we are, we're right where we need to be. So as you can see, we advanced the quilt forward to where we want to work. Now I need to set my workspace. So it wants to know where can the machine move on the table. So we want to stay the same size as our back. So first I'm going to do the top left, then I'm going to move my machine all the way over here to the top, bottom right. Now if you're paying attention to what we're doing here, I am using scrap batting. These are charity quilts we're working on, so that's why we're using scrap. All right, so before I do all that, I'm going to sew down my sides. Pull away, cut my threads. I'm going to go ahead and touch my other side over here real quick. Cut my threads. And now I'm ready to pick a design. Oh, measure my quilt. That's what I want to do next. So now we're going to measure our quilt and get it ready to be quilted. When you're quilting with QuiltPath, it measures differently than you and your tape measure. So we are going to first set a parameter for ourselves so that we have a point A and a point B to work from. And if you'll notice, I took my Crayola washable marker and I came out about 1/2 inch over the top and about 1 inch off of the side. If I was doing a big quilt, I might do 2 or 3 inches, depending on how precisely your person pieces. So I'm gonna go right up here. I have my, oops, I have my thing. I'm gonna touch on the tape measure up there. And I've got it lined up exactly where I want to start. So I'm going to mark that first mark, and then I'm gonna set my channel lock so that when I go all the way across and I mark my second side with my Crayola washable marker, that's the end. And then I'm going to apply the measurement. So it thinks I'm working, well, it knows that I'm working in an area that's 55.5 inches. Then I have to measure. Now I'm gonna measure down the side. So my total width is the 55.5. My total height is gonna be up there, all the way down the side. And the total height of this is 65, so I'm gonna put 66 into my total height. Okay, so what you see right there is my quilt exactly on a little tiny scale. Now I'm going to select a pattern, and we are, just for the sake of doing things easy, we're gonna do a stipple or a meander, but it's a stipple in my thing. Oh, here it is right there. So I've touched it, I'm gonna open it, and it's put it in here. Now here's what we're doing. We are working in power mode, or panto mode power. Power panto is what we call it. So if you touch that button, you can see all the different things. It can be advanced, basic, easy, or power panto. We want power panto. Okay, so I'm gonna pick my stipple again. Open that. And you can see that looks pretty dense. What I want to do is go into my magnifying glass, open it at a larger size. And so if you look, you can see where it's all kind of touching right there. So we want to add some vertical spaces. And I don't know if you can see that separate, but it's going to separate your spaces. And I also, it's thinking through all this for you. I want my pattern probably to be 12.5 inches big. So the space that I have in between my rows needs to be the same size as the space in between the designs. And I like that. You can save it on your laptop or on your tablet. I'm just going to take a picture, and that way I know exactly where it's at, and I know exactly what I'm looking for. So there it is on my phone. If I miss it, lose it, whatever, it's right there. I've got this. Okay, now I'm going to make it fit, maybe, back into here. And now I can see my design. I like how that looks. I like what I'm seeing. Now I'm going to sew in zones, and it's figuring it all up. It says, would you like to save this session? I'm going to say no, because I just took that picture. So now the screen that you see is, there's a red line and a green line. The green line is the pattern we're actually quilting. The red is the safety area that I set up. So I am going to bring my machine all the way back over here to the first mark that I made. And I'm going to set my hopping foot on that. And when I touch A, watch the entire design move. Boom, there it is. It's going to start at the green dot. It's going to end at the red dot. So we're going to allow that to stitch a design. And I'm going to come over just a little bit where I think it's going to start. And literally, it doesn't matter where I move the machine, it is going to move to where it needs. So watch. I know that's not where it starts, but when I hit sew, it's going to move exactly to where it needs to start. And once I get away from that, I'm going to clip my threads. we'll be back after we get to the end of the row. All right, our row finished sewing, and as you can see, it stopped right in the center of that row. So now I just have to follow the directions, and I'm going to go right here to this button, and it says finished zone. We're going to tap that, and you'll see when you've engaged one of these buttons, you're going to get a dark outline around it so you know you touched it. It says, have you completed the sewing zone? Yes, I have. So what it's going to do now, it should say wait just a second, but it doesn't. What it's going to do now is move to where it has to mark the next corner. So I am literally going to mark it right there. And then I'm going to say next mark. Very important. There it goes. It's going to move, and as it moves, I'm going to cut my threads, allow it to move all the way over, which takes a second. And now I'm going to mark that next mark. I'm done with my pin. Now look right here where I caught my thread. So anytime your batting is short enough or it's too close, just take a second and stitch it down so that it doesn't catch like this. This is not going to interfere with my quilt at all once I trim it, but just know that that'll happen if you're not careful enough. Okay, now I'm going to say continue. And it says warning, not all the markers have been placed. It wants us to mark something in the center, but we do not need to do that. So am I absolutely sure I want to go to the next zone? Yes. There we go. And now it's telling me the machine is going to move to where the fabric marker is. I'm going to say okay. The spot that it's going to move to is the very first mark I made, so that I know where to advance the quilt to the next row. Okay. Now the quilt, or the machine is moved up to that mark up there, and it tells you, move the fabric so that marker 2A, this is 2A, it's the second row, and it's the A portion. It says it does not have to be precise, but get as close as possible. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna release my tension brake. I'm going to let it advance forward. And notice I'm not right on that dot, because the next step I want to do is I want to make sure everything is right where I need it to be. Okay? Get it all straightened out and get it flat. All right, so remember it said this does not have to be precise, but get as close as possible. So I'm going to say okay. It says, have you moved the fabric? I have, so okay. Now it's up in that top corner again, so I have to remark A and B every section now. So I'm going to bring it down to A and touch the A mark, and you saw the pattern move. All right. Now we're coming to a spot on this charity batting where it needs to all be sewn down. So just watch what I do. Stitch that down. I'm going to stitch the rest of the side down over here. And I'm just going to hit that batting on the outside because I don't want it flipping. And that'll keep it from flipping on me. Okay. Now I'm going to come down to B. And you'll get your rhythm on this, however you want to do it. I'm going to start down low. I'm going to come all the way up. I'm going to go ahead and sew down my batting so I don't forget to do that. I'm going to clip my threads. And now I need to mark B on the right-hand side. So right back up here. There's B. and the pattern's happy. It likes what it's doing. So after every single row, you're going to want to check your bobbin. My bobbin is halfway empty, but I want to run out of thread so I can show you how to repair the pattern. So we're going to leave that in. Otherwise, you would change that. You'd put in a new bobbin. So I'm going to move this all the way down. Now I'm going to start in about the center of my row. So I'm just going to move about to where I think it needs to start. I'm going to pull up my thread and I'm going to hit sew. Oh, I wasn't far off. Okay. Yeah. We're at the end of row 2 again. So again, we need to finish the zone. Have you completed the zone? Yes, we have. So it's going to take a second. It's going to move down to where it needs to show us where the row is. I'm going to mark it with my marker. And I'm going to hit next mark. And it's going to start moving. So while it's moving away, I'm letting it get far enough so that when I clip the threads, my needle doesn't come unthreaded. That's the word. We're going to let it come all the way over here to the side. And I'm going to mark the next mark. Okay, so then where do we go next? We're going to continue. Not all the markers have been placed because we're not marking that center mark. And so are you absolutely sure you want to move to the next zone? Yes, we are. Okay, so now the machine is going to move. Perfect. And there she goes. And you can see right there where it's going to move to. So we're going to advance the machine forward now, or the fabric. Get this one a little bit closer. I got it right underneath it because that is how I roll. If I need to, on any row, I'm going to throw my quilt top back and I'm going to get it where I need it to be. We're going to add another piece of charity batting on here real quick. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure I've picked up enough batting that it's going to reach. And when I am doing these quilts like this, I'm not necessarily trying to save batting. I'm trying to use up what I have because even though it's in small pieces, it is still good to use. And I'm not living long enough to sew all this together. So I'm just overlapping and it makes it perfect. Okay. And as you can see, we have a few issues with this top, but it'll be all right. We can do it. Okay. So it says move the fabric so that marker 3A is beneath the needle, but it doesn't have to be perfect again. So that's what we did. We said, okay. There we go. Have I moved the fabric? Yes, I did. I'm gonna say okay. And again, it's way up here in this corner. So I'm gonna move, make sure my machine is right there. And then I'm gonna mark A. And you saw it move. And while I'm here, I'm going to sew down my sides. Now look right here on the side. If you'll notice, I'm getting as close to the edge as I can. I want the stitching that I put on the side of the quilt to be close enough to the edge that it's going to be hidden in the binding. So now I'm going to trim this side. And I'm going to do side B. If I start down low, I can work in more fullness. And literally, if I'm starting down low, I can work in about 3 inches of fullness on the side here if I need to. sewing that down so that it doesn't get in my way. And I still need to mark point B. So there it is right there. I'm gonna tap on B. Did I do it? There we go. And it adjusted just a little bit. All right, we are ready to start with this third row. And I'm gonna change my bobbin. Oh, it has plenty of bobbin. Okay. Needle up and down. I'm gonna pull up my bobbin thread and I'm gonna tap sew. And we'll see you in a second. Here we are at the end of row 3. So we have finished the zone. Have you completed the sewing zone? Yes, we have. Now it knows to move down and give me the next mark where the next row is going to start. Boom. So now I'm going to hit next mark. Get that black line around it. There we go. And it's going to start moving. Now, if you'll notice, we have not used the clamps on this quilt, but we're going to use them on the next row just so you can see how. But you don't always have to use the clamps when you're quilting. Okay, so we're getting ready to mark the next mark. Just mark it right there. Good to go. And so now I'm going to hit continue. Again, we don't want to mark anything in the center, so we're just going to say yes, please move forward. So now the machine is going to move. And there it goes. Okay. Again, we're going to release the carriage or release the tension brake. We're going to step on the forward pedal. There we are. I'm going to make sure everything is where I want it. And you can see I'm not wasting any batting. I'm not cutting anything off. I want to use what I have. And I've got it pretty good. Okay, so move the fabric to marker 4A because this is our 4th row. So I said okay because I just did that. Have I moved the fabric? Yes, I did. And now I'm going to move my machine so that it's right over my mark I just made. That's my A mark. And I'm going to sew down all my batting again. And if you just said, oh my gosh, what is she doing? She's using different battings. Yes, I am. Because these little quilts, a lot of times, don't even last very long. Sometimes they go in the police cars, sometimes they go to the kids, but usually they don't last too long. So here I go again, securing everything down. Trying to prevent a problem by cutting that off. Okay, and marking B. And I can use my nail too. Okay, there we are. We're ready to start the next mark. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you. So what you're seeing today, this is the new comfort table that we have. Pretty sweet. And I'm just going to put some tension on there. I'm just going to use one on each side. I'm going to make the adjustment that I need to get the length that I want. And if you get them too tight, they won't stay on, just like that one. I'm going to release it a little bit more. I don't need a ton of tension, but just enough. And there we have it. Okay, I'm gonna move my machine down. And I think it's gonna start about right here. I've changed my bobbin and I'm gonna hit sew. Also, on this particular quilt, I am using up bobbins. So I've got blue bobbins on here and gray bobbins. I'm just trying to use up what's in my studio because this is a charity quilt. I'm still doing a beautiful job. I still care about what I'm doing, but I'm using up my stuff so that I free up my bobbins and I free up space for my batting. Okay, we are at the getting ready to do the last row. So again, we have finished the zone. There. Have I completed the sewing zone? Yes, I did. Now it's going to give me the mark for the next corner. I'm going to mark that with my handy dandy marker. I'm going to go to the next mark. And off it goes. I'm going to release my clamp because I do not want to roll that up into my back. I'm going to go ahead and release this clamp while I'm thinking about it. Going to mark my next little mark here. I'm done with that. And now I'm going to continue. And again, we're not marking that middle section, so we're good. We're wild. We don't care. And now the machine's going to move where I need to move it. And there it goes. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get the bottom of our quilt secured down. So when I move this up, I know that when the heel of my hand is touching the bar, that's how far the machine's going to come down approximately. So that's all the farther I need to raise it up. I'm going to make sure everything is right where I want it. Don't want a bunch of stuff in the middle. I need to go through this again. I've moved the fabric marker to row 5, so I'm going to say okay. Have I moved the fabric? Well, yes, I did. So before I do anything else, I'm going to secure this down. So just like I started in the center at the top, and you might be looking at this going, get that handle out of your way. I've got to be careful. If I get this too high, it will bump into here and it won't quilt everything. So here I am at my bottom edge. I am not going to lock my channel lock in because chances are it's not going to be square anyway. So as I'm sewing, I'm working out any fullness that I have as I go, and my left hand is always going opposite of the direction I'm driving. So there's that, and now I need to go up, and I'm still working out fullness. Oops, missed that line. And now I want to sew down the edge. I may be good down here, but I'm going to go ahead and sew over because I'm too lazy to cut my thread. Here we are back at the center. And now I'm sewing down the opposite side. And so quilting is like driving. My hand is going to go exactly where my eye leads it. So I'm always looking ahead, and I'm looking right here at the edge of my fabric. And that's exactly where my machine is going, is right to the edge. And don't worry if you run over your finger, your spit will get your blood out of your quilt. Isn't that reassuring? Okay, so here I am. I'm going to mark A. And it all fits. I need to cut my thread because I just finished stitching that side down. And now I'm going to come down here and mark B. And there it is. Okay, we're getting ready to finish the last row. Let me go ahead and put my clamp on while I'm still down here. Perfect. I'm gonna come right over here real quick, and I'm gonna move it to where I think it's gonna start. I'm gonna put my clamp on. Okay, and I'm gonna hit sew. And there we go. Whoops. Okay, so did you notice how as it moved, it scooted this over? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my yardstick over here to come under this. Let me grab that 1 second. And it's gonna raise this up just enough so my machine won't hit it anymore. So depending on where I put my yardstick depends on how high it's gonna be. And I just need it a little bit higher than my machine. So right there seems to be good. Now also, when you're trying to decide on the size of a pattern, you only have 20 inches here to work with. So you want to keep your pattern probably not any bigger than 17, 16 to be safe, because you have to have room for everything to work. For instance, this is a row and a partial row. I don't know if you can tell that or not. You can tell. This is the row, and then this is the partial row. So if I had this set up all the way to 20 inches, it couldn't do that last part. So by not making your pattern as big as you possibly can, you're going to be able to fit everything in better. Okay, so we're at the very end of the quilt. We do not need to finish the next zone. We're literally done. We've stitched everything. We're done. We are just going to come here, X out of here, right? We're just done. That's it. So I'm moving the quilt off, and now you can either unpin your quilt or you can trim it off. I personally like to trim my quilts off so that when it comes off the machine, we are ready to bind it. Big scissors, we call these the butter, and they're Kai scissors. And so I'm going to move to this side because I'm right-handed. And I am literally trimming to the edge of my quilt. You may not prefer that. You may want to get it even just trimmed off enough that you're not dealing with a bunch of the excess. Or your customer, if you're going to be quilting for people, they may not want you to trim anything, which is fine also. But when a customer gets a quilt back that has a nice trimmed edge, they're usually pretty pleased with it.
Okay, so here we are at Urban Elements. We already got our pattern added to the cart, and we're going to go ahead and check out. And proceed to check out. All right, and we're going to go ahead and put in our payment method. All right, and we've already selected our payment method, so now we can go ahead and place the order. Perfect. So now it's come up with thank you with your purchase. So now we can come to my downloadable products. There should be a little link right here. I'll go ahead and click on that. It's going to lead me to a new page. Your pattern that you just downloaded should be the first one to show up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that blue link. It's going to download right up here in the corner. I will double click my zippered folder to open it. I'll open that to full screen. Okay, and from here I need to extract everything in this folder, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this folder up here.
Extract all.
Perfect, and it's just asking me to select a destination. I don't really have to select one. What it's put in is perfectly fine, so I'll just go ahead and put extract.
Oh, just a second. Okay, go.
There we go. Open that. So now everything's extracted in this file and it's ready to be put on the USB. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna find the file I wanna upload, which is gonna be a QLI. I'm going to rename this file because I just don't want all the numbers and letters in front of it. To rename. I'm gonna get rid of all those letters and numbers. And it didn't move my file because it's supposed to be alphabetical, I believe. So still highlighted though, so that's what I want. I'm gonna go ahead and select that and drag it down to my QuiltPath folder and drop it in. Now I can open that just to double check, and it's right there. And now we are ready to unhook our USB and move it to the computer. All right, so we are at our home screen. Everything is already set. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and come over here to plugins and batch import. And I can come in and plug in my USB, and there's two different spots. I can plug it in on the back here. Can I turn this? It's not turned. Let me just move it this way. So go ahead and film it. Get a picture of that on the back.
Okay.
So we got a USB on the back right there that you can plug it into, or we have one right here on the side. And we're actually just gonna use the one on the side. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna plug that in the right way. There we go. Okay, it's gonna go ahead and bring up a folder. I don't need that. I'm just gonna exit out of it. Ignore that. Okay. So now I need to come over here to new drive right here. And it's gonna come up with a new pop-up block, and I have to select my drive, and my drive is named QuiltPath. So I'm gonna go ahead and click that, and it's gonna open everything in that drive. And you can see right here, that is my pattern. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that. It's highlighted blue, so I know I've selected it. And I'll hit import in the corner down here. Importing, all right, perfect. It's come up, it says success, so we are good there. I can hit okay. It's gonna ask if I wanna import anything more. I don't, so I'm gonna say no, and it's gonna take me back to the home screen. And we're not entirely done yet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the pattern. I have to come up over here to the pattern folder right under new drive. And there's a folder labeled batch. I have to open that. All right. And now I've got to find the pattern that I just imported.
Right next to pedal pushers.
There it is. Highlighted blue, so I know I've selected it. I'm gonna hit copy right here. Continuous line and paste. Now it's copied and pasted into my continuous line folder, and I do not have to constantly go back to the batch folder to open it. And I can hit open, and it's gonna open everything on that pattern. And that is how you download and upload a pattern onto your computer.
Okay, so what I want to show you right here is where it says length, total stitches, sewn remaining. What we've figured out is when we're doing a design that's as loose as this, not dense, it's just kind of open, the total stitches, it's about a minute per 1,000 stitches. So this little row right here is going to take about 6 minutes. It's 5,800 stitches, and we've figured that it will take about 6 minutes. So that kind of gives you an idea. And I also know my bobbin is going to last through all this. Okay, you heard that beeping, and we've run out of thread. So what we're going to do now, it says a broken thread has been detected. We do not want to ignore that signal. If you ignore it, it's going to turn it off. So we're just going to say, okay. And then we're going to release the carriage so that we can move the whole thing over and restart. So I'm going to pull it off to the side. I have not cut my top thread. That way I know exactly where I'm going back to. Should have been right away. I'm going to blow out my bobbin every time. I don't want any fuzz getting caught up in there. And down here, just give it a blow, just blow it out so you don't have a lot of fuzz underneath. I'm going to put my bobbin back in, right underneath. I've put my finger behind the hook assembly and I want to hear that good solid click. Okay, so now if you look at the screen, it's telling you approximately where you were when it ran out of thread. So we're going to go back up to that point, and by not cutting my thread, I can see exactly where I need to be. I'm going to come back about 3 or 4 stitches, needle down, needle up. I'm going to use my thread to pull up my bobbin thread, and you can see my bobbin thread is gray because our back is gray. I've got everything right there on top. Now on the screen again, we're going to repair the pattern. We want to go to the closest stitch. If you don't say closest stitch, it's going to come to where it finished quilting, which was way down here. So at closest stitch, if you can see, everything is lined up perfectly. If it was not, I can use any one of these 4 buttons to nudge the machine any direction I need to go. And it's just a tiny little nudge, so it makes the slightest movement. But once I know I'm lined up and ready to go, I'm just going to hit sew. It gives you a secure stitch, and then off it goes again. And I'm cutting my thread right to the quilt. And if you want to bury it, just leave the long threads on there and you can bury it when you're done.